Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Daniels. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and get the presentation started. All right. Hopefully you can see the full screen version.
Yes, looks great.
Perfect. And then I've got my slides over here. Okay. So I think we're all set. Okay, so I'm just going to jump right in. Welcome, everybody. We're going to learn about Fast Forward today. KET, you may not know, but KET is the Kentucky Educational Television. We are the PBS affiliate for the state of Kentucky. But so of course we serve the state of Kentucky, but with our adult education products, we also serve adult education learners and programs nationwide. My role, I have been an adult educator in various roles as a teacher, an assessment coordinator, a program manager, and I'm also a librarian. With KET as the adult education specialist, my role is to provide trainings like this one and just to generally help support teachers and programs to implement our platforms and our courses, and just generally speaking, to provide impactful programs for your adult education students. So let's jump right in. So I have a little survey to sort of set the tone for today. So you can either use your phone and do the QR code that you see on the screen. If you don't have your phone with you, just go to on your computer, go to slido.com and then type in the 7-digit code that you see there. And answer the question here. How familiar are you with KET's Fast Forward program? If you're a total newbie, totally fine. That's part of what this session is for. If you're a beginner, you may have seen it before. You may have used it a little bit, but not super familiar. That's wonderful as well. And then intermediate and advanced, both awesome as well. So go ahead and take a moment to put in your responses. Okay, give you another 30 seconds or so. Just use your phone camera to either pull up that QR code, survey question, or on your computer, go to slido.com and enter the 1-845-905 for the survey. And so it looks like a newbie and a beginner. That's super. Yeah, a couple of beginners and a newbie. Awesome. That's great. So we are going to kind of start from the beginning, sort of looking at the platform. We'll talk about a lot of the key features that we're going to go through. And just sort of give you sort of a very high level view of the platform. And then we also have another upcoming session later this month in which we'll do a deeper dive into how to use a lot of these features, because everybody's at a different level of a different comfort level when it comes to using new technology and new platforms. So if you are interested, please make sure that you sign up for that as well. But for now, let's start more broadly. So key features for Fast Forward: we are a comprehensive online equivalency, high school equivalency study system. We offer all 4 test subject areas for the GED test. We are set up to be aligned with the Common Core standards, college and career readiness, TABE tests, including the most recent ones, although not too many changes. And it didn't really affect our platform too much. So not like when they went last TABE changes. If anybody's been in adult ed for a while, you might remember that from way back. But we are also a certified test prep provider for the GED test as well as for the HiSET test. And we are specifically designed for both independent self-study. So independent learners can go to our website. They can go to the GED Marketplace website if they're looking for curriculum and learning materials, and they can find our programs and purchase their own license for 6 months or a year, whatever they need. But we also are perfect for teacher facilitated programs and for using for classroom instruction as well. Whoops, sorry, skipped ahead too. There we go. So what do your students get? They will start out with a diagnostic pretest. This will lead to their customized study plan to meet each student where they are. Now, the diagnostic pretest is not the TABE test. They're not going to be sitting for hours doing lots of in-depth questions. This is simply a 20 to 25 question diagnostic that, we hope is not too taxing for students, but that it really will give them a chance to streamline their learning because they can perhaps skip some things that they already know. Like, let's say they're super into U.S. history, and so they take the social studies pretest, and it allows them to skip the majority of that chapter because that's something that they already know a lot about. Then once they get into the curriculum, they have access to interactive and mobile-friendly lessons. So if you have folks that are working either distance learning or just doing supplemental work, want to get ahead more quickly, it is mobile-friendly, so they can log on from any browser on their phone or tablet as long as they have Wi-Fi access and still have access to the entire content. We try to meet diverse learning styles. We have embedded videos. We have step-by-step instruction. We have lots and lots of opportunities for practice questions that absolutely reflect the test question formats. The variety of test questions that they see can trip up learners. And so we make sure that we try to reflect that as they're studying. We also have lots of accessibility tools. So to assist learners, any learners, but in particular, those who might benefit from text-to-speech, multi-language translation. We have an in-platform glossary so that folks don't have to jump out to Google or ChatGPT or whatever to try to figure out a definition for a word. And we also, for those that are visually impaired or who just want to change their theme a little bit, we have customizable background colors as well. So what do teachers get? What are our teacher tools? So we're going to look at this in more depth, but we do have reusable seats with a mobile-friendly platform, and those are managed through Maria Angel and her team. And so if you don't already have seats, please request those. And they are reusable. So as you have students who move in and stop out of the program, you can manage that. We also have a management system for monitoring their progress. Study plans are accessible to teachers as well, and their test readiness. We have a report generator and gradebook so that students can be accountable for their own learning via the gradebook that they can access as well, their own grades, I should say. And then we have reports for that you can generate either for each individual learner or just for your class and your program for your program accountability needs. We have supplemental lessons, extensions, other materials in our teacher toolkit. There's a ton of helpful content there for the classroom that we'll take a look at shortly. So basically how it's going to work is you're going to log in and see your dashboard. Okay, so this is the teacher dashboard. We're going to start here and then go through what a student will see. So you also, by the way, before I move on, you see that this teacher has access to math, language arts, social studies, and science. You have access to all of the course material as well. So for example, for me, I come from more of a language arts and social studies background. But if you were to be in a role where you needed to access, where I needed, for example, to access math, and brush up on my math skills. You don't want me teaching algebra until I've reviewed the course myself because I need to make sure that I'm up to speed on what the students need to learn so that I can be an effective explainer for those concepts as well. So all of that material is accessible to you as well. Math and language arts are each broken down into further modules. And so, like, for example, math is reasoning with numbers, statistics, and geometry, and then also algebraic reasoning. Language arts is language, reading, and writing, broken up into 3 separate modules to sort of chunk that material for students as they're preparing. Social studies and science are each just 1 module. So as I mentioned before, they're going to start with a 20 to 25 question pretest that is specifically designed to get to their individual strengths and weaknesses on the content of each course. Again, not meant to be onerous or too demanding for the students, particularly new students. This is what their study plan will look like. They'll have access to all the courses. By the way, this is a screenshot, but in the course, these are all live links. So when they get started, they can just go right to their study plan for the course that they're working on and jump right into where they need to be. They can see what they've already completed. They can see what's been assigned by the test, and they can see what's been assigned by you, the teacher. And we're going to look at that shortly because you can also access each student's study plan for all of their courses and not only see how they're progressing, but you can also assign them specific lessons, either things that you want to focus on as a whole class or areas where they've already gone through something and you think that they need to look at it again. Sometimes students will get into the habit, unfortunate habit, of just kind of clicking through, reading but not understanding, reading but only in a cursory manner. And so maybe they say, oh yeah, I did that lesson. And then you go back and it turns out that maybe they didn't do very well on that lesson review. You can assign them a lesson to go back and review again. So here's basically how the course structure works. Each course has a series of topics that each topic is then further broken down into lessons. And so there's this collapsible menu here on the left-hand side where you can see everything, all of the course content. And then they can either show or hide this. So if you have students, when they're in the material, they may find this too distracting. There are menus that pop in and out on this side and then also on the left-hand side once you're in the course material. And like I said, again, those can be opened and closed as needed. I also want to point out this study tools here. That's a little hint for later. We're going to talk about that further. But just as a hint, as a little Easter egg for later. So then once they get into the lesson, So here's a science lesson, for example, 1.2, life functions in ecosystems. Then they go through, this is when that other side, the right side menu pops open and they get all the different, this is like a course is like a textbook, and the lessons are like the chapters that they're going through. And so they will click through to read the lesson introduction, cells and cell functions, human activity in ecosystems, and interpreting science diagrams. And for each of these, they'll have little checks along the way to check their understanding. And if you see these blue words, as I mentioned earlier, we'll look at this again as well, but these are the words that are in the in-platform glossary. This is an example of a skill check that they might see. This is not a graded assignment. This is meant to be a check along the way to make sure that they're doing that deep reading and comprehension that they need to make sure that they understand the content. So they would type their answers here for the fill in the blank. They can check it, and then the system tells them automatic feedback for correct or incorrect. And they can do it again if they want as well. So then once they've gone through, as you can see, it says done, done, done here. So this student went through, so once they go through 1.1, human body and health, marks it as done. But to get a grade, this then opens the lesson review, which is basically a quiz for this section. Then they go through each topic, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. They've gone through all of the life science topics. They've taken all of the lesson review quizzes along the way. And now they're ready for the topic review for life science. So that's why it says to do here. So that's the next thing that the student needs to complete for a graded assignment. So each lesson review has 10 questions. Each quiz lesson review has 10 questions. And then the topic reviews have 12 questions. There's also a post-test at the end of each section for math and language arts, and then at the end of the course for science and social studies as well. These post-tests are 25 to 30 questions each that review the entire module or the entire course. And then at the end, they do get to review all the questions, how they did. There are no secrets. They see the entire results of how they did, what they got right, and then gives them suggestions as to what to go back and review. There are also practice tests. So these are another chance to practice the question types and the content that will be on the official test. And then students, again, get suggestions on content to go back and study if they didn't do well on certain parts. These are not the same as the official GED ready practice tests. These are not predictors of success. If you use the official practice test for GED, you'll get the likely to pass, not likely to pass, those types of advisements for students. But on our tests, we don't do that. What we basically say is these are not predictors of the test, but they are a further opportunity to practice being in a test setting with the types of test questions that are going to be on the test and content that they'll see. Okay, so here's the embedded glossary that I mentioned before. All they have to do is click on the blue words. They'll see a little definition pop up, and then they can click on OK to get rid of it. It's just a great way. We know that when students are working either on their phone or even on a computer in your classroom or a computer lab, it's real tempting. We've all done it. It's totally human nature. Once you click out of that course, the next thing you know, you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook, you're here, you saw a news article pop up. So this is a great way, we think, to help try to keep students inside the content for as much as possible. So that if they want to go back after they finish a lesson and get clarification on something, they can do that. But while they're reading, while they're in the lesson, they can see those definitions inside the system and not have to jump out. Also gives them a good opportunity to take notes. These are also printable. So we have some printable resources as well that you could keep in your classroom, give out to students as needed. But these specifically that I've highlighted here are the printable glossary, which is found in the teacher toolkit. We're going to talk about that later. But also the test tips. I'm so sorry. Lost my train of thought for a second there. Printable test tips that you can use as flashcards, or once you've got students who are really, really ready for the test, this gives them some really good ways to think about how to prepare for the test. So for example, for science, when you are asked a question about a graph, first figure out the main idea, see what type of graph it is, read the title and labels, and finally locate the detail you are being asked about. So the test tips are not specific content, but they do give students great study skills that if they are using these as they study, that it will make it easier to use them on the test as well. Study tools, I mentioned this earlier when we were looking. This is what's found at, on the left side menu panel. It's a writing self-assessment. So writing, I haven't been in the classroom for a while, but if it's still the case, my understanding is that the writing part of the language arts is one of the most challenging parts for students. Especially depending on their prior educational experiences. So we give them some basic tips on how to self-assess, how to self-improve their writing skills as they're working on getting ready for that RLA test. We also have a pop-up calculator, again, same as the glossary, to sort of help eliminate a lot of that jumping out, jumping back in. The formula sheet, it's printable here, but they can always, if they don't have a printed copy, they can always access it here as they're working on that that algebra, in particular the algebra for the mathematical reasoning for the math test. And then a highlighter tool, again, focusing heavily on not just the content, but helping to improve your students' study skills as well. There's this highlighter tool. It stays highlighted, I don't know which one, but they can highlight points that they want to remember. So as they are working, that they're doing their active reading and making sure that they have the high points, the main ideas, key things that they want to remember. So here's more about our accessibility tools that I mentioned earlier. We do want to be sure that it is that these are available for everyone. So text to speech, we use a program called Read Speaker that we support in our platform. It's really multifunction text to speech. What you do as a student, you highlight what you want to have read back to you. And then you come down to the little functionality down here. It opens a little menu. You can, you see all the regular controls: stop, pause, fast forward, volume, speed. If they want to change how quickly it reads to them, they can slow it down if they need to. But we find that it's super helpful. It follows along, like it's a little, see the little green and blue here. It's like the little, it follows along so they can read and listen at the same time at whatever speed they need. Then we also have, as I mentioned earlier, the background color change tool. Maybe they just like pink and they want a pink background, or they want a blue background, or whatever. But certainly if we have visually impaired students who need the, instead of the white background with the black text, as would be standard, they might need to reverse it and have the black background with the white text. Or if they have color blindness, they might want to change the color of the background for that reason as well. So little extra functionality for folks as well. Okay, next. So I mentioned we do have a translator. I think this actually looks a little bit different now. So my screenshot here might be a little bit out of date. But basically, we do not have a separate Spanish language version of the courses. We recommend that students who are learning English as a second language, that they should probably be intermediate level or higher, certainly, when they are getting started with Fast Forward. But we also want to support those learners to continue leveling up their English language reading skills as they're learning the content. So we do provide the translation as a tool as well. So it's easy to use. You just highlight what you want, right click, do translate, translate function. There's a bunch of different languages. I think it's like 30 more or less. Spanish, of course. So here's what it looks like. It is supported and powered by Google Translate. I will say Google Translate, when it first came onto the scene, it's been a number of years now, but it was not super reliable. Google Translate is now backed by AI. And so it has become, in the last couple of years, certainly much more accurate and to provide more accurate translations. But and certainly for the level of content that we're looking at for the science concepts, for math and so forth and so on, has been shown to be certainly quite accurate, especially in the last couple of years. So there's also a text-to-speech function here too. So if they want to hear it read in Spanish, in addition to reading, they can listen as well. All right, so I'm going to pause here for just a second because we're going to move on to your class tools as the teacher. And so any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or also feel free to unmute. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and move on, and then we'll talk about all of the availability for teacher functionality here. So we'll go through these one by one. So we're back at the dashboard, and we're looking, your students will see dashboard and get motivated. You will see all three of these class tools, including the class tools functions. If you may also have a license management here as well. Certainly administrators have additional capabilities. So we're going to start from the top, Teacher Toolkit. This is a treasure trove. If you have logged in to Fast Forward, a couple of you are just getting started, a couple of you have never seen it before. But if you have not been to the Teacher Toolkit, it is the first thing I recommend doing the next time that you have the opportunity to log in to the platform. It's really, there's some very valuable resources here, and it does fly under the radar, so make sure you check it out. So we've got instructions documents. We've got curriculum support documents. We've got subject area scope and sequence documents for all of the courses. We've got all the standards alignments. So if you are interested in specifically how we align with the GED test and the TABE test, we have those here. On the right-hand side, you'll see where it says Fast Forward Science, and you'll see the science classroom activities. Oh, okay. Sorry, had to find my place there. So the science classroom activities, so we really do have a library, a curated library of classroom resources, supplemental activities, ready-made lesson plans for different topics that are covered in each subject area. So as I mentioned before, those scope and sequence, those GED assessment targets. We also have professional development courses as well. So if you are new to teaching in adult education, each of the 4 subject areas have a module, a professional development module, in which we lay out everything that a new teacher, well, we hope that it's everything, but the foundation of what a new teacher to adult education needs to know to help best prepare your students for each of the different subject areas. So that one is particularly useful if you're new to adult ed. We also have virtual walkthroughs of each of the platforms. This is a playlist on YouTube. And so actually, let's see. I'm going to grab that. Let's see. So that playlist is in the chat. There are 4 videos that are perfect for new teachers as well as new students. The Getting Started with Fast Forward tells everybody how to log in, how to get started, and then next would be navigating your courses. So this is more for students, but also helpful for teachers as well to navigate through the courses and really dig into that curriculum. Teacher features, some of the things that we're going over here, and then center administrator specifically as well for managing your classrooms and your virtual classes and rosters and so forth. Administrative support documents, like I mentioned, here's an example of the standards alignments, the assessment targets, reports overview, so that it gives you, for all the reports, exactly when you click on them, what are you getting when you execute a report. This is the subject area sections. You'll see specific things for each of the courses: math, language arts, social studies, and science. So we just looked at this earlier. Here's a little bit larger screenshot for you. But we have the science classroom activities. This is powered by PBS Learning Media. And so these are all, PBS Learning Media is a free platform from PBS specifically for teachers. So for example, Ken Burns recently released a couple of months ago an entire series on the Revolutionary War, documentary series on the American Revolution. So if that's something that you're interested in teaching, you have some students who are working on social studies, the PBS has broken it down into segments, like say between 5 and 10 minute segments, along with, and here's the key for teachers, along with discussion questions, printouts, worksheets, all kinds of material for students that you can use in your classroom. And so what we have here under the science classroom activities is all curated to topics that would be on the science GED test. And then again, here are the printable test tips, the printable glossary. We have a link out to the GED question previews. That's there, the GED Testing Service official little preview for their test questions for the science test. So here's an example. This is the curated library, so you can go one by one or just scroll through. But here's one for physics. So mass versus weight. You got a video from NASA, from the NASA Physics and Engineering Collection from PBS. Again, there's a background essay, there's discussion questions, there's suggestions of how students can work in small groups to do this activity, and so forth and so on. So great if you're doing whole class instruction to implement some of these. Here's the gradebook as we continue through the options in the class tools, in your teacher tools. So this is where you can monitor your students' graded assignments. You have the option to choose the class if you teach more than one class, the subject area, and then you just hit view grades. When you get inside the gradebook, you can also change to different students, to different courses, so that you don't have to continually, if you're looking for all of your students, like let's say it's been a couple of weeks, you're doing a check-in with your students, you want to give them a printout of the assignments that they've done and how they're doing, then you can just skip to each student here. You don't have to go back out every single time. Reports, it works very similar to the gradebook. You select your parameter here on the main screen, choose which report you want. This time on task by subject is very useful. Many teachers use this. You have date ranges here. We recommend do this occasionally, maybe once a month, maybe once a week if you even want to do that. But don't let this go. If you need to pull a report for program accountability, try not to let this lag till the end of the semester or whatever time period you have with your students, because the reports get very unwieldy for the system to go through all of the students and all of the grades and all of the time that they've been active. So if you want to review those reports, make sure you set yourself a schedule to do that, whatever works for you in your program. Then once you do get into the report that you want, you can change the parameters. You have options to print and download. And then I like this function especially because for each student, you can see their overall time, but you can also delve into each session. So every time that the student has logged in, the platform records that as a session, okay? And so you can dig into their sessions and see exactly what they're working on, how they're working. You can also sometimes, if you see anything squirrely in here, kind of helps keep students accountable because you can see, well, you logged in, but you just sat there for 10 minutes. right? And so what were you doing for the first 10 or 15 minutes? You didn't actually click on anything. You didn't actually go through any of the pages of content. Oh, wait, aren't you ready to take a quiz on that? So you can kind of ask those probative questions to your students as you're reviewing their activity. Here's the student study plan from your viewpoint. Okay, so again, you can assign them different things if you'd like, but it does tell you, okay, if it's black, they passed it on the test. If it's green, they took the pretest and it said they need more help with this. Then this blue one, for example, is one that I assigned to my student Drake Jones because he needed extra practice here. We also have class rosters that it's important to keep these up to date, especially if you have a lot of coming and going. This is one of the things that if you are just beginning your fast forward journey, so to speak, we'll on the next session, we'll delve much deeper into how to find previous students who stopped out and then came back, how to create a new user, somebody who's completely new to your program, and add them to your class and give them access to their fast forward subject area courses. It's meant to be very dynamic and able to be kept as up to date as you need for it to be as you have students coming and going throughout your program. Okay. There's also this quick report function here. And that just lets you see, I think it's 7 days and 30 days. You can see some options for just really quick reporting if you want to double check that. There's also an option for getting help as well. So under your profile, this is available for teachers as well as students. However, if you are teaching a class, what we recommend is for students to go to you first to get help. Maybe they just need help navigating something. If they need help getting access and resetting their password or some questions like that, that you may be able to help them walk through. And then certainly if you need our help, we're here responding to these Monday through Friday, daily. Okay. So let's take a look. I know that I went through that fairly quickly, but if I did go through anything that you want to look again at, I'm happy to. So we started with sort of the basics of Fast Forward. We talked about how to log in and get started. We talked about the curriculum and the course structure for students. We talked about the options that we have for accessibility to support your students as they're learning. And then we talked about all the features for you all as teachers. So anything that you all want to go back and look at again, we also have a few minutes. We can jump out of PowerPoint and into a live look. It's totally whatever you guys would like to do with our remaining 10 or so minutes. Any questions in the chat?
I am curious to hear if any of the teachers here have already used KT Fast Forward, or have you used the curriculum, or have you students used the accessibility tools? Any quick reactions about that?
Yeah, and feel free to unmute, but we're always happy for feedback and questions. Like I said, if I went through anything pretty quickly, you're more than welcome to ask a follow-up or certainly share what your experiences are with how much you've delved into the platform. Everybody's quiet today. Let me actually stop sharing for a moment, and then let's look at.
I know that when I previously was working on a different program, and the GED instructors specifically would use KET Fast Forward all the time, especially for the youth students, with all really, but mostly with the youth students, and they all would go on their own pace and work in their own materials. So they loved it, the students, and felt that they
Exactly.
could comfortably work with it on their own.
Okay. So here's what the teacher platform looks like. I was mentioning the teacher toolkit earlier, but we could, and so we'll jump into that, but here's what the courses look like. So I referenced social studies earlier, but all of these are live links. They can read at their own pace. What I really like, specifically now that we're in social studies, is that we have this section called Social Studies Practices. What we really want to emphasize as students are going through Fast Forward, especially if they are able to sustain being students and end up being in your program for a long time. What we really want to foster in them is critical thinking skills and how to learn and how to show their learning when they're ready to take the test. And so we have a lot of content as far as how to understand information more broadly. So they're not just learning facts and geography, locations. They're really learning more how to think and how to process information. So this is a good example of how we do that. Because so for example, on social studies tests, some questions will test whether you understand the information provided to you in text and graphics. So like for social studies, there are a lot of maps. There are a lot of charts that show different economic concepts. So they're going to have to be able to not just learn the specifics of that, but more broadly, how to read that map, how to understand what a graph is showing, how to pick out the main idea of a passage. So those kinds of things are things that we want to make sure that your students are focusing on as well, not just learning facts and figures. Okay. Another thing I'll highlight, I mentioned the class tools earlier. So I'll give you an example here. We were looking at the science classroom activities. So let's see, let me pick out a good one here. Okay. All right, so here's an activity on chemistry for the science course. This is, if anybody knows the PBS science program NOVA, it's been on for many, many years. It's great content for science. But what it actually does is it allows you to jump out of our curriculum and into PBS Learning Media. Even if you don't become a Fast Forward user, I would love for you to just go to pbslearningmedia.org, pbslearningmedia.org, and just take a look. all subject areas, all grade levels. So if you have, this is good as well, because if you have a class that is trending a little bit down, lower in their grade level, then you can certainly find lessons for that would be appropriate for any grade level here. So there's a guide. Here's some main ideas that students should take away. Discussion questions already made for you here. You can copy and paste these, print them into a document. So everybody's going to need to learn something about the periodic table, and it tends to be one of those things that maybe students didn't pick up from their and may not remember from science. So again, this is just an example. You watch a 2.5-minute video and have some class discussion. And there's a bunch of activities like this as well. So again, ready-made. Adult educators have not a lot of time, but a lot of demands for making sure that students are making progress and learning the content that they need. So this is great for math as well. I always say, no matter what students need to learn, they always need to learn math. So we've got geometry, area of a circle. So you can watch this video. It just gives like a quick description, but then there's background information, there's discussion questions where they are going to be engaging with the materials. Again, not necessarily meant for them to have to be doing problems to find, okay, here's a circle, here's the radius, find the area. That's all in the curriculum. This helps them back up and really get the background information of why they need to know the area of a circle and how to do that. Okay.
Elizabeth, could you add the link of the PBS Learning Media?
Sure, absolutely.
Just to access it quick.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. It looks like a great resource.
Yeah, it definitely is. And this one, let's see. So what it will do is it will take you, once you go to PBS Learning Media, it will see where you are according to your IP address on your browser, and it will point you toward Rhode Island PBS.
That's great. Awesome. Thank you.
I'm also always available to, if you as an individual teacher or you have a group of teachers in your school or in your program who are implementing Fast Forward, and several of you want to join in, we can do a separate webinar. I can answer specific questions. It's so much easier to go through it virtually, like with your own screen pulled up. As far as you're logged on, you're seeing your students. We can practice in real time with how to help a student navigate through the curriculum, look at your reports, manage your class roster, any of those kinds of tasks that you want to do. And of course, we'll also have, what date did we schedule that follow-up on?
It's in 2 weeks. Let me pull up the exact date. It's for Tuesday, January 27, also at 3 p.m.
Perfect. So yeah, make sure you sign up for that. and get registered. We'll, again, like I said, do a deeper dive into all of these things. And at the beginning, I'll probably even ask for participants to give me suggestions on what you would most like to see and what would most be helpful for you. So again, if you dive into it and you have pertinent questions, would probably be helpful for everyone to be able to take a look at some of the things that we'll be looking at. Okay.
Definitely. And I just put in the chat the link for the
Perfect.
following session, the one in 2 weeks. So you can register ahead of time and put it in your calendars if you would like to.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elizabeth.
Sure.
This was
You're welcome.
very helpful. A lot of really good information. And we thank you, Kim, Cheryl, and Jonathan, for coming. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we hope that you can come for the next one in
Yes,
2 weeks.
thank you. It was very
Thank
interesting.
you. Thanks
Great.
for the info. We
Thank you very
appreciate it.
much.
Sure.
Thanks.
No
Thank you.
problem. I'm also going to drop my email in the chat as well. It's edaniels@ket.org. So if you have any follow-up questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. I'm available for help. And I hope to
Great.
see you guys in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thanks, Elizabeth. We'll see you in a couple of weeks again. Thank you so much.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.